Hello everyone, welcome to this lecture number 1 of our week 10 for the course Metrics and Analytics of Marketing. Throughout this week, we will try to look into various important metrics associated with sales force and channel management. Basically, when we use this term sales force and channel management, we refer to the phenomenon of how a product is being made conveniently available from the point of production to the point of consumption. In today's topic, we will try to cover the sales force coverage in terms of geographic area, coverage in terms of accounts, coverage in terms of sales potential. We will try to look into the details of how the goals of the sales force are made at individual level or at territory level, and we will try to look into various ratios which will give us the indications regarding the results of the sales force performance. Basically, this kind of metrics which are associated with sales force and channel management, they describe how the marketers measure the adequacy as well as the effectiveness of the system that provide the customers with the opportunity to purchase the product. Basically, in simple terms, it is all about whether there are adequate forces in place to make a product conveniently available for the potential set of customers. In this process, we list and we define the most common measures for determining whether the sales force effort and geographic coverage are adequate for addressing the target set of audiences which was decided during the process of segmentation and targeting. What it helps us? This matrix helps us in forecasting the sales, in allocating the sales force effort at different levels, at different stages of the selling process. When we talk about the selling process, it refers to the activities starting from the lead generation to follow-ups, followed by conversion and ultimately the purchase. So, all these 4 stages will be considered as a part of the selling process. Let us dive more into the concept of sales force coverage. We will first try to look into the territory as a concept, right. So, we know the dictionary meaning of territory. So, territory is something, a defined region within a given periphery of geography. So, this is called a territory as far the dictionary meaning is concerned. From a sales standpoint, the definition of the territory is similar but not exactly same, because in the sales domain, the territory can be defined in terms of geographic boundary, it can be defined in terms of administrative boundary, it can be defined in terms of sales potential, and it can be defined in terms of combination of multiple factors. Sales force territories are the customer groups or the geographic districts for which individual salespeople or the sales team hold the responsibility. It is something like, I am a salesperson in a company, then I have to look into a geographic location, define geographic location. Let us say the North Guwahati part of Guwahati, right, or the North Delhi part of Delhi. Right. So, this is how the sales people are being allocated among different geographic locations. Remember that theoretically it might sound like each of the sales people should be allocated with equal geographical periphery. But from a sales standpoint, it is not holistic if we are allocating the sales people in terms of geographic coverage only. We have to look into what is the sales potential in a particular geographic location, what is the awareness level of the people living in a particular geographic location. For example, the salesperson who is allocated an area of, let's say, 100 kilometers square in Bombay versus a salesperson who is allocated a 100 kilometers square area in Andaman and Nicobar Island. You can see a vast difference in terms of workload, in terms of revenue generated by both the persons. So, why is this difference arises? It can be because of the sales potential. Number of people who can be considered as the potential customers in Bombay will be much higher than the number of people who can be considered as the potential customers in Andaman and Nicobar Island. Similarly, the awareness level of the people living in Bombay might be much higher than the awareness level of the people living in Andaman and Nicobar Island. There can be other factors as well, such as the affordability of the people living in one location versus affordability of people living in another location. Therefore, territories are not just defined in terms of geographical coverage or administrative unit. It is judiciously evaluated by the sales managers, and based on that, what they try to do is they try to divide the workload equivalently among the team members of the sales team. Territories can be defined on the basis of geography. It can be defined on the basis of sales potential. It can be defined on the basis of evaluation of the historical data, or ultimately it can be defined as a combination of all these factors. Only goal in defining the sales territory is that no salesperson is overloaded, neither any salesperson is underloaded. The companies strive to balance their territories because this can reduce the cost and increase sales. We have to optimally use the potential of the salespeople. However, it is always easier said than done. Achieving an appropriate balance among territories is an important factor in maintaining the satisfaction of the customers, satisfaction of the salespeople, and good health of a company as a whole. Otherwise, you might end up in a situation where the person who is performing well are always overburdened with a lot of work. The person who is not working well are always given less task. Therefore, it is the responsibility of the manager to assign the right territory to the right person and use the resources, use the potential in a optimal manner. Let us look at the purpose of the Salesforce coverage matrix. As we said, the main intention, main objective is to create a balanced sales territories so that nobody is overburdened, nobody is underburdened. There are a number of ways to analyze the territories. If we do not do the proper analysis, then in that case, there is a possibility that some of the salespeople will be overburdened with work and some of the salespeople will have little work to do. That will have again a percolating impact. What will be the percolating impact? Is that the person who will be overburdened with work, he will not be able to give more time to his average customers or the required time to an average customers. So, in that case, some of the customers will be underserviced. On the other hand, the salesperson who has little work, he will be able to devote a lot of time for servicing the less number of customers. So, in that case, some of the customers will be over-serviced and some of the customers will be under-serviced. There is a possibility that the customers who are under-serviced may look for alternatives and ultimately you will lose some of your customers. When sales personnel are stretched too thin, the result can be under-servicing of the customers. This is a natural phenomenon. If you have given, you are flooded with lot of work, then probably you will not be able to concentrate on many tasks. So, you will be just hovering from one task to another one. Over servicing by contrast may arise the cost and prices and therefore indirectly reduce the sales. So, if somebody is over serviced than required, in that case the cost associated also increases, and that is why it is extremely important to have a balance of the sales territories. Unbalanced territories also raise the problem of unfair distribution of the sales potential among the members of the sales force. This may result in distorted compensation and cause talented salespeople to leave the company seeking superior balance and compensation, right. So, there is always a possibility that if somebody is overburdened with work, the person will be dissatisfied, the person will look for alternative job. If some people are given less tasks and the person has an intention to do more tasks, but he is not given with the opportunity, he will not be incentivized, and that is why he will look for a superior job elsewhere. So, actually if the sales territories are not balanced properly, it leads to dissatisfaction across various stakeholders, including the salesperson, including the customers. Now, let us try to look at what are the various objectives and how do we construct the sales force coverage matrix. In defining or redefining the territories, the companies must strive to balance the workload among various salespeople. Nobody is overburdened, nobody is underburdened. You also need to look into balancing the sales potential. It is not something like 100 kilometer square area in Bombay versus 100 kilometer square area in Andaman and Nicobar Island. It has to be balanced properly. You need to look into the revenue will not give you the exact picture. For example, in an area where the awareness level about your product category is already at a higher level, it will be easier for the salesperson to sell more in that area as compared to where the awareness level is much lower, where the adoption level is much lower. And a lot of behavioral factors will play into this phenomenon. Then you need to develop the compact territories, minimize the disruptions during the redesign process, because you know that awareness level, the adoption level, the needs and requirements of various segments of people belonging to various geographical locations will keep evolving over a period of time, and that is why the territories also needs to be redefined over a period of time, right. For example, one product which is very much relevant today in one area may be obsolete in that area 5 years down the line, but the same product may be relevant in another area, right. That keeps happening. So, depending on that, the territories needs to be redesigned over a period of time. So, as a manager, you should keep a sharp eye on that there is lesser level of disruption in the process of redesigning the territories. Before designing the new territories, a sales force manager should evaluate the workload of all the members of the sales team. The workload for a territory can be calculated with a formula. You can just look at this formula. What is the workload of the territory? Number of current accounts multiplied by average time to service an active account plus the number of prospects multiplied by time spent trying to convert a prospect into an active account. So, basically it divides the roles and responsibilities of salesperson into two categories. One is you have an existing set of customers, you need to keep them servicing. You need to do the activities so that those customers are retained with your brand. Another one activity is like you have potential set of customers who are not yet your customers, but they can be potential customer. Now, what do you want to do with them? You want to create new accounts with them. So, in that process also probably you will need to do a lot of counseling, you will need to do a lot of follow-ups, you will need to do a lot of negotiations to convert them as customers. So, these two categories of task are there. So, your workload is divided into these two categories. Remember that a person who is already aware about a product versus a person who is not that aware about a product, you will need different level of effort to convert both these customers as a, both this potential prospect as a customer. So, that is why it cannot be just numbers, you need to do a holistic analysis. So, that is why we have used this term, time spent trying to convert a prospect into an active account. So, this particular parameter for Bombay might be different from Assam or from Andaman and Nicobar Island, right. The sales potential in a territory can be determined with a formula where we multiply two parameters. One is the number of possible accounts multiplied by the buying power of the average buying power of the customers. So, that will give you the potential revenue that you can generate if you can cater into the segment properly. So, this is how we construct the sales force coverage territories as metric. Let us look at an example. These are very simple to calculate. Among the sales prospects in one of its territories, a copier manufacturer has identified 6 small businesses, 8 medium sized firms and 2 large companies. Enterprises of these sizes have historically made annual copier purchases that average $500, $700, $1000 respectively. The sales potential for the territory can be calculated as follows. What is the total sales potential? Number of possible accounts multiplied by buying power of these accounts. Therefore, as far as this example is concerned, it will be, we have 6 small businesses and buying power of each of these businesses will be $500. So, 6 multiplied by 500 plus we have 8 medium enterprises whose buying power is 700 each, 8 multiplied by $700 plus we have 2 large scale entities whose buying power are 1000 each. So, it will give us a total sales potential of 10,600. Now, let us look at the overview of the matrix called sales force objective setting the goals. Sales goals are generally needed to motivate the salespeople. In absence of a goal, what will happen? You will not be able to know whether you are performing your duties as per the expectation, below expectation or you are exceeding the expectations. Where do you stand? You will not be able to locate. This can have negative effects if it is set too high or too low. If sales target is too high, then the salesperson might be thinking that anyways I cannot achieve it, I cannot achieve my sales target, therefore, there is no point of putting more effort. If sales targets are too low, in that case the salesperson can easily achieve it, let us say within 3 months. Then for the rest of the 9 months, he will not have much motivation to perform. So, therefore, you need to be judicious in determining the sales target. Multiple methods are designed to set the goals that are fair, that are achievable and in line with the historic results. The goals are stated in terms of the sales totals for individual salespeople. Let us say for me the total sales target for this financial year is $100,000. The approaches of setting the sales force objective involve a combination of historical results and weighing of the sales potential among the territories. So, it will look into multiple factors. What was my past performance and what is the upcoming ambition set as a company in terms of sales potential. That 2 factors will be taken into consideration in deciding what should be my sales target for the upcoming year. That I will see later. We will look into this phenomenon with example. This ensures that overall goal will be attained if all the salespeople made their individual goals. So, in the process what we try to do, we try to bifurcate, we try to break the company's goal into manageable tasks which are translated to individual goals. So, overall company goal is divided into 100 fractions and each of this fraction is assigned to one salesperson. So, if each of these individual achieve their own goal, then in that case the company as a whole can achieve its goal. So, this is how it works. Now, let us look at the purpose of Salesforce objectives matrix. So, what is that objective? What is the purpose? To motivate the sales personnel and establish benchmarks for evaluating and rewarding their performances. In setting the sales goals, managers strive to motivate their personnel to stretch themselves and generate the most sales possible. What is the intention, what is the objective function of the manager here? To make more sales. But they do not want to set the bar too high or too low, because we know if it is too high, demotivation will be there. If it is too low, then also there will be no further motivation. The correct goal levels will motivate all the salespeople and reward most of them. So, normally how the appraisal is done for the salespeople at the end of the financial year. So, there will be a set target and the evaluators will look into what percentage of the target is being achieved. Is it 80%, 90%, 100% or 120%. So, this sales target will be one of the significant key performance parameter in measuring the appraisal, in measuring the performance of the salesperson. Whenever planning for the sales goals, certain guidelines are important. So, how do I set the sales goal for the sales team or the individual salesperson? So, there is a framework called SMART, which stands for, it has to be specific. I mean, what is the sales target? Either it has to be defined in terms of number of units or in terms of amount of revenue. It has to be measurable, objectifiable. There cannot be a scope for interpretation, there cannot be any subjectivity. It has to be attainable. Let us say I achieved $80,000 of, I generated $80,000 revenue in the last year. This year it can be $1 lakh, right, because my experience has also increased and let us say the market is also expanded at a CAGR of 10%. So, 100,000 is achievable, but if they make my sales target as 200,000 without any other changes, then in that case it is not attainable. It has to be realistic. In a competitive market, you cannot, let us say your current market share is 10%. You can be ambitious enough to make it to 12% or 15%. You cannot try to achieve 50% of the market share. Otherwise, you are not realistic and it has to be time bound. Unless and until there is a specification of the time, in that case, it will go nowhere. It has to be time specific. Everything in business is time specific, otherwise it does not have any meaning, the metric does not have any meaning. Now, let us try to devise some of the formulas for the metrics associated with the Salesforce objectives. So, you can look at this formula which basically encapsulates the methods of setting the goals. A district is assumed to be composed of the individual territories of multiple salespeople. A sales goal or allocation based on prior year sales can be calculated as per the formula. We will look into how it can be calculated as per the prior year sales performance, how it can be calculated in terms of the potential sales, how it can be calculated in terms of combination of multiple factors. So, sales goal in terms of prior year sales can be calculated with the formula which equates to salesperson's share of prior year sales in the district, what is the percentage, multiplied by forecasted sales for the district. So, it is something like, let us say in the last year our overall sale was 10 million and I achieved a revenue of $100,000. So, what is my total share in as per the overall revenue is concerned? It is 1%. Now, this year it has, because there the entire market is expanding, the demand is increasing in the overall market, we as a company believe that we can achieve 15 million sales in the subsequent year. Now, we are not making any changes in the sales theme. So, therefore, my target for the next year should be, because it is increasing at a CAGR of 50%. So, my share should also equivalently increase. That is, earlier in the last year I achieved a sales revenue of 100,000. So, now it will be 150,000. Okay. So, sales people share of prior year sales in the district, that is 1%, multiplied by forecasted sales for the districts, that is, instead of 10 million it is 15 million. 1% of 15 million will give me a value of 150,000. A sales goal based on the prior year sales and the sales potential for a territory can be calculated with multiple parameters. One is, what is the salesperson's prior year sales plus the forecasted sales increase for the district. So, now the forecasted sales earlier was 10 million, now it has become 15 million. So, there is an increase of 5 million sales, multiplied by this 5 million sales multiplied by territory's share of sales potential in the district. So, my share will be, it will remain constant, that is 1%, right. So, it is salesperson prior sale, that is 100,000 plus 5 million multiplied by 1%, that is 50,000. So, it is 150,000. Another way of looking more holistically into calculation of sales target can be like this. Sales goals can also be set by a combined method, in which the management assigns the weighting to both the prior year sales of each salesperson and the sales potential of each territory. So, let us say weightage given to prior year sales can be 60% and weightage given to sales potential can be 40%, right. The weightings are then used to calculate each of the salesperson percentage share of the relevant sales forecast, and the percentage shares are used to calculate the sales goals in dollar terms. So, you can have a look at this formula. Weighted share of sales allotment, which is equal to salesperson share of prior year sales in the district multiplied by assigned weighting. Let us say if I am giving an weightage of 60% to the prior year sales percentage, this value will be 0.6. We will add it up with the territory's share of sales potential in the district multiplied by 1 minus assigned weighting. Assigned weighting, now this value will be 1 minus 0.6, that is 0.4. That means, we are giving 40% weightage to the sales potential and we are giving 60% weightage to the past performance. So, what is the genesis of it? What is the genesis of this formula? The genesis is that the sales target should be dependent on your sales performance that you have done recently, and it should also go in the direction of ambition, that is the sales potential that is set for the company as a whole for the upcoming year. So, depending on that, by combining these two factors, we will calculate the weighted share of sales allotment in terms of percentage. What should be the percentage allocated to this sales team or to this salesperson? Ultimately, if that is calculated, we can easily calculate the sales goal. The formula will remain the same, that is weighted share of the sales allotment multiplied by forecasted sales for the district. Now, let us look at an example in which we will calculate the sales goal with multiple methods. We will look into past performance, we will look into sales potential, we will look into a combined method. A salesperson achieved prior year sales of $1,620, which represented 18% of the sales in her district. This salesperson was responsible for a territory that held 12% of the sales potential in the district. So, the percentage of sales potential is 12% of the entire district, but as per the performance is concerned, it accounted for 18%. So, in a way what we can see that this salesperson has performed better than an average salesperson. If the salesperson's employer mandates a district sales goal of $10,000 for the coming year, representing an overall increase of $1,000 over the prior year results, then the salesperson's individual sales goal can be calculated in various ways. One is sales goals based on the prior year sales. So, prior year this salesperson has accounted for 18% of the total district sale. So, now for the coming year the forecasted district level sale is $10,000. So, $10,000 multiplied by 18%, that is 1800. Now, for the next year if I calculate the sales target only in terms of sales goals based on the prior year sales, then it should be $1800. But if I calculate the sales goal based on the sales potential without giving any consideration to sales performance in the last year, then in that case it will be just $1200, right. So, 12%. So, it accounts for total 12% of the sales potential of the entire district. That is why 12% multiplied by $10,000 gives us a value of 1200. Similarly, I can calculate the sales goal based on the prior year sales and what is the increment in the sales goal of the entire district. So, what was my sales goal based on the prior year sales was 1620, and what is the amount, what is the forecasted increase in sales for the entire district, that is $1000, and that is why I as a salesperson account for 12% of the total potential sales. That is why last year performance plus 12% multiplied by 1000, that gives me $120. So, 1620 plus $120, that is $1740 is my new sale target. The last approach that we discussed is the weighted average of the past performance and this one sales potential. So, let us say the weight is given to both the factor is 50%. So, in that case I can calculate it this way. So, first I will calculate the weighted share of the sales allotment, that is 50%. So, 50% of my past performance which accounted for 18% of the total sales. So, 18% multiplied by 50% plus potential sales percentage is 12% multiplied by 50%. So, this weighted average value is 15%. So, I should be accounted for 15% of the total potential sales in the upcoming year, and that makes my target at the level of $1500. So, I think now we are clear about how we can calculate the sales goal for an individual salesperson or a team based on various methods. Remember that if we set the sales target only based on past performance, then in that case probably we are not accounting, we are overburdening the person just for better performance in the previous year. That needs to be either incentivized or somehow it should be recorded, right. Or if we calculate only based on the sales potential, in that case what we are trying to do is that without any evaluation of the past performance, we are trying to impose a sales target just based on the company's sales target. So, both these things are dangerous. So, that is why we need to do a holistic analysis taking into consideration multiple factors. Now, we will look into some of the metrics for measuring the effort, potential and results, through which we will look into the effectiveness of the sales force. There is a difference between efficiency and effectiveness. Effectiveness is something which is more subjective, which is more holistic. Efficiency is output divided by input. By analyzing the sales force performance, managers can make changes to optimize sales going forward, right. So, we need to analyze it, then only we can rectify if something is required, and we can optimize the sales performance as we go forward. There are many ways to gauge the performance of the individual sales people and of the sales force as a whole, in addition to the total annual sales. Remember that it is not the only revenue collected. Revenue collected is dependent on multiple factors. If two salesperson are of equal caliber, then also the revenue collected by the salesperson who is operating in Bombay might be higher than the revenue collected by the equal caliber salesperson who is operating from Assam. So, that those factors needs to be accounted in evaluating the performance of a salesperson. So, I am re-emphasizing that it is not about the not only about the revenue generated. Of course, revenue generated is one of the most significant parameter of evaluating a salesperson, but it is not the only parameter. Now, look at the purpose of sales force effectiveness matrix. The primary purpose, as we said, that is to measure the performance of a sales force or of an individual salesperson at an individual level or at an aggregate level. When analyzing the performance of a salesperson, a number of metrics can be compared. This can reveal more about the salesperson than can be gauged only by the total revenue generated by the salesperson. So, that is why we take the help of various ratios which can give us a lot of indication in the business dynamics that we will scan through. Let us quickly look at the various ratios available. One is sales by contact with the clients. What kind of indication does this ratio gives? Means whether we have been able to optimize the sales revenue from each of our customers, from our active customers. Are we able to upsell the some of the products? Are we able to exploit the disposable income of the customer? So, this can be indicated by this ratio. Then second one is that sales divided by the potential accounts. So, what does it indicate? It indicates whether we have been able to cater to the target market properly or not, or we are somehow not been able to cater to those potential customers. Then sales divided by active accounts, it gives us the quantum of an average active customer purchasing from your brand. Sales by buying power, it gives an indication whether we have been able to make them buy a higher quantum of, make them spend a higher quantum of money or not. And the last ratio, that is expense by sales, gives an indications regarding whether I as a salesperson is an efficient salesperson or not. If I am spending more but making less sales, then I am not efficient. So, it is a combination of two factors. One is what is the sales that I am making and what is the expense that I am incurring for the company. So, let us quickly have a scan on these indications. If the individual salesperson sales per call ratio is low, for example, that may indicate that the salesperson in question needs training in moving customer towards larger purchases. I am catering into the customers, but somehow I am unable to convince them to purchase more. So, I needed training from that perspective, or it may indicate a lack of closing skills. Another ratio, if we look into, if the sales per potential account or the sales per buying power metric is low, the salesperson may not be doing enough to seek out new accounts. We are not generating new accounts. These metrics reveal much about prospecting and lead generation because they are based on each salesperson entire territory, including potential as well as the current customers. So, basically I need a skill of lead generation, I need a skill of new account generation. The third scenario, the sales per active account metric provides a useful indicator of the salesperson effectiveness in maximizing the value of the existing customers. Whether I mean, I have been able to sell more and more products to my existing set of customers, whether I have been able to cross sell to my existing set of customers or not, or upsell to my existing customers or not. So, all these ratios deserves an attention in order to do the right interventions to optimize your sales. Now, we will look into the last example for sales force effectiveness. So, we can do a kind of survey kind of thing in order to capture the sales force effectiveness. To translate the customer's opinion into a metric, a company might post survey question like this: please circle the level of service your business received from our sales staff after shipment of the products you ordered. So, what we are trying to capture is, here we are trying to take the feedback about our salespersons regarding the post purchase service extended to them. So, if this kind of data is available with us, then we can do a lot of things. Let us say if it is on the, if this value is on the lower side, in that case we should take an intervention so that we can retain these customers, probably with some loyalty programs. But if it is on the higher side, then we understand that we need to keep bestowing the current level of service, and probably it is time for being ambitious of new account generation. So, this is all about the initial first class of Salesforce management and channel management matrix. As we discuss in the subsequent classes, we will look into other metrics. Thank you. I will see you in the next class.